Good morning, I'm Frances Shannon, Acting Vice-Chancellor of the University of Canberra, and this morning I'm speaking with Michelle Grattan. Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning, Frances.
Well, during the week, Malcolm Turnbull announced his new ministry, and there were some winners and losers. What do you think of what happened there?
Well, the National Party was the big winner because it got an extra cabinet minister, got an extra minister in the outer ranks, and that of course reflects its very good election result. Another winner was Christopher Pyne, who moves from industry to defence industry, and that's a huge portfolio of building things, building ships in particular, and of course as a South Australian that's a very important area for that state. On the losing side, well, a couple of the women actually who were promoted by Malcolm Turnbull last year were losers, not for any gender reasons, but Kelly O'Dwyer, who held 2 ministries, has lost small business and just stays in the area that used to be called Assistant Treasurer, but now has a more fancy revenue title. And Marise Payne, who was or is Australia's first female Defence Minister, has lost a chunk of her area to Christopher Pyne.
Well, let's talk about women then in particular, and the number of women MPs in general has fallen following this election. What should the Liberal and National Party do to ensure that women are pre-selected in safe seats and that we increase the number of women in Parliament?
The Liberals won't countenance quotas, nor the Nationals either, but talk about targets. But the thing is that they're just not being successful in achieving any sort of respectable target. They're going to be, the Liberals are going to be in the House of Representatives some 13 women out of about 60 Liberals, which is pretty bad. I think that they've got to be very active in trying to get women to stand in pre-selections, to attract women into the party, and a bit of picking winners, if you like, picking potential winners who would be good candidates and then mentoring them, encouraging them. Also, where there are rank and file pre-selections, convincing the pre-selectors that it is important to get women into Parliament. I think in some cases women in the party tell me that there are real difficulties. Pre-selectors think with younger women, for example, will they be able to deal with family responsibilities as well as a political career? They don't ask that of men who are standing. So there needs to be a change in attitude of pre-selectors and also much more activism by those higher up in the party.
I thought that question about would you be able to deal with a family had gone out of vogue a long time ago.
Well, apparently not in pre-selections. It's quite interesting because that's what a number of women who have been candidates or even have become politicians will report to you.
Kevin Rudd has finally confirmed what everybody has been speculating about, which is that he's after the UN Secretary-General job. How is the government approaching this issue?
With some nervousness. Julie Bishop, who is Foreign Minister, of course, wants the government to nominate him. She makes the distinction within the party that nomination doesn't mean endorsement. But the thing is, if the government doesn't nominate him, he can't run. You've got to be nominated by your government. I think in the end the Liberals, the government will do this, but there are some in the party who are quite hostile to the idea of putting forward Rudd, and they will not be happy if and when the Cabinet gives it the tick off.
There's a very small line between endorsement and support, I'm sure.
In this situation, it can be a rather important line for the sceptics in the party.
The Labor caucus is in town today and they're selecting their front bench. Kim Carr, who has been the higher education spokesperson, has been struggling to maintain his spot. What is likely to happen after today?
It's a bit unclear, but it's interesting that the left essentially think that they'd like to make room for other people, in particular Linda Burney, who's the first Indigenous woman to be elected to the House of Representatives. She's a former state MP and obviously should go straight onto the front bench. There are also some resentments about Kim Carr in the left. He voted for Bill Shorten in 2013 in the leadership ballot, took a couple of his factional mates or sub-factional mates across with him, and that was pretty important in Bill Shorten's victory. So there are long-term resentments, and some others in the left have issues with him. He's been fighting back very strongly. He's threatened to take his supporters out of the main caucus left, and it is known that Bill Shorten would like to have him still on the front bench. It's not entirely clear how solidly opposition leaders fighting for him, but as we speak, it's a work in progress.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens later today then, Michelle. Thank you very much, and we'll talk again next week.
Thanks, Francis.